When you said, I just want to go to something basic on the 60 Minutes interview, when you said it was not the president's intent to blame James Clapper, the question from Steve Croft was that a complete surprise to you, Mr. President? And he said, James Clapper says they underestimated it. How is that not blaming the intelligence community?
Because, Ed, on questions like this that the president's answered in the past, he's been very clear that as the commander-in-chief, he is the one who's personally responsible.
In the 60 Minutes interview. And he was asked, was it a surprise to you? And he didn't say yes, no, maybe. He said, Jim Clapper.
All right, folks, welcome back. Joining us right now is the former director of the CIA and the chairman of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, James Woolsey. Hello, sir.
Hi, good to be with you.
Great to talk to you, sir. Let me ask you, when Obama answered the question in question here, if you will, the way he did, answering, throwing James Clapper under the bus, and then James Clapper, to his credit, wrote a rebuttal of sorts the other day, saying, defending his intelligence community. How did you react? How did you take it? Were you surprised? Is it par for the course with this president, or was this above and beyond the usual? I don't know anything. Talk to them.
Well, I think the president has a propensity for wanting everything to stick to what they sometimes call the narrative. Another word for narrative might be fib. A story. And the story is that terrorism was defeated when we killed bin Laden. Other terrorism when we were able to withdraw from Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's largely over, and there are just a few little things going on. That's the story, and it gets, I think, less and less true, and more difficult to fit it together with reality every day. But so I think the president was quite reluctant to point out that what was the surprise and what really bothered them and what really changed things was that the Iraqi army didn't hold together. It was basically it cut and ran
right.
When ISIS came after it. And that, in a way, is not the principal responsibility of the intelligence community to estimate. That Iraq was an ally there, and intelligence, a lot of it anyway, is about stealing secrets from enemies. So even though maybe the intelligence community should have seen that issue more clearly and publicized it within the classified world more, they didn't do a bad job on that at all. Particularly, I think the head of DIA about 9 months ago, Mike Flynn, was making it very clear that he was very worried about the stability of the Iraqi army.
Absolutely.
And so I think that side of things really was not dealt with real squarely by the administration, and I think it did. It either permitted or required Flynn to leave early and retire early, and he's one of the most brilliant intelligence officers this country's seen in the last several decades.
Let me ask you, when we label the beheading in Oklahoma and unfortunately and unbelievably still label the Fort Hood shooting workplace violence, I mean, it's an injustice, but how much damage does it do, or does it do damage?
It's really a bad idea. Political correctness is just stupid. Anybody who thinks it works ought to read the old 50s science fiction novel by Ray Bradbury called Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
It's essentially a commentary on political correctness. It blinds you to reality. You got to call it straight, and you may be wrong. Everybody makes mistakes, but you can't assume that anything that is violent ought to be labeled the same way a psychiatric case who goes out and just starts shooting randomly around. That certainly didn't happen at Fort Hood. The major
Nidal
the
Hassan.
doctor, was shouting Allahu Akbar as he murdered his fellow soldiers, and his business cards said that he was a jihadi, and on and on. And yet they wrote up this report 3 years ago that just said it was workplace violence, which connotes something like just a crazed individual. And that's really stupid, because it makes it harder for people to understand what's going on, and you can't deal with things very well unless you can talk about it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We got 30 seconds, not fair, but how big a threat to our security is this Ebola threat, do you believe?
I don't know much about that, but it looks like it moves fast, and we're not real well equipped with a disciplined system that can operate where people can't be face-to-face with one another or talk somewhere in the same theater or whatever. This is really awful hard.
Well, sir, great to talk to you, and I hope you'll come back. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. Good to talk to you.
James Woolsey, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Up next, Tim Graham of the Media Research Center and Newsbusters. Don't miss it.